உலகெங்கும் தமிழரின் பிம்பம் உங்கள் டிவி.
Welcome to CrossRoads on TVI, a show that showcases the Tamil Canadian community, their issues, their successes. I'm your host, Mathusha. To get this show started, I have a question for you at home. Are you a Tamil cinema lover? Well, you're in for a treat. Joining us today are three guests with a passion for cinema. Tamil cinema, of course. Let's meet our first guest. Dilani Rabindran is an analyst and South Asian film tracker for the Toronto International Film Festival, as well as a columnist and correspondent for the Indian film website Behindwoods.com, for which she interviews biggest names in Collywood and candidly covers the latest happenings in Tamil cinema from her column East Meets West, which focuses on rising trends in Tamil films from a North American perspective, as well as growing international audiences for South Indian films. Our next two guests are joining us from Skype from London, England. Carrera and Nelson Sivalingam are a dynamic writer-director duo hailing from London's East End. Bitten by the film bug at a very young age, their passion and fascination for cinema drove them to write their own scripts and venture into the world of directing. Their short film, Still Life, was nominated for the Best of Boroughs Award, hosted by BAFTA, and also won Best Film and Best Screenplay at Vimbum Film Festival in 2009, with Nelson also picking up Best Actor in a lead role. They are the brains behind Barking Mad Productions, a company that focuses on all things creative, ranging from music videos to TV commercials, as well as having started up their very own online entertainment channel, indiebrown.tv. Carrera and Nelson are also the directors of The Rajini Effect, set to premiere on January 13th in Toronto. Thank you to all of you for joining us today and joining us here on CrossRoads. I know we're all on various time zones.
Yeah, I'm good. Today I'm in the Toronto time zone, so it's okay.
And Carrera and Nelson, who are joining us from London, of course.
Yeah, hello. Hi.
Okay, so as a fellow Tamil film lover, the first question that comes to mind when I meet someone else who happens to be interested in Tamil films is, who's your favorite Tamil actor and actress?
Oh my God, what a shocking question. we just made a film called The Rajini Effect, so I think we're giving that one away. Yeah.
I'm going to take a wild guess and assume it's Rajini.
I think that's a good guess. Oh, well.
And Dilani?
Well, it is a tough question for me because there's so much amazing talent coming out of the industry these days. But if I had to go with maybe the current actors who are kind of ruling the roost, I'd have to say Siddharth is one of the actors I really enjoy. His performances this year in Jigardanda and Kavya Delivan, they just blew me away. And actresses-wise, I really admired Lakshmi Menon. I think she's really great at choosing roles of substance, and she really elevates the talent of films she's in. But I have to agree with the guys. I mean, come on, the classics. It's got to be Rajini, it's got to be Kamal. I have to mention those names. And as a special teen obsession, I have to mention Madhavan as well.
Nelson, Carrera, you guys haven't told us who your favorite actress is.
Oh God. So currently in Tamil cinema, I think, as Dilani mentioned, Lakshmi Menon's good. I thought Anjali was good in Angari Teru. So I think of the recent performances, there would be the two.
Yeah, I'd probably add, she hasn't done many films, but Parvati Menon from Malayan is a solid actress, as actors go. But I think out of the current crop, there are very little actual actresses with acting capabilities. So it's probably those.
And to be fair, I don't think they're off the rock to demonstrate their acting capabilities. You can't blame them either.
But I guess Simran, needs to put Simran out there.
Yeah.
Good answers. So, favorite Tamil film? Dilani, do you want to start off with that?
Yeah, it's another tough one, but because it's very difficult for me to narrow things down. but I'm going to say, purely for nostalgia's sake, I'm going to say Jeans, directed by Shankar, because I was just a kid when I saw it, but it was one of those movies where I think it was actually the first time I was consciously aware of how much work must go into making a Tamil film, or any film for that matter. I remember we saw it in the theaters maybe like 4 times, probably in the span of 2 weeks. And it was, I think, everything of a little girl's fantasies come to life on screen. The songs, the dance, the actors. And I just remember leaving the theater and thinking there's a lot of moving parts to this thing. Like this is not just, you know, someone didn't just snap their fingers and put this magnum opus on screen. So for that fact alone, and the reason, I think that's the moment I knew that if I wasn't obsessed with Indian films before that, I definitely was after that one.
So it started with Jeans.
It started with Jeans.
Nelson and Carrera?
I think that is possibly one of the hardest questions out there, considering how many films we watch. But just by pure basis of how many times I've watched this film, I would have to say Iravad by Mani Ratnam. I've watched that film so many times. I even watched it on my plane back. It is an incredible movie. How it captures. It's a biopic. The way the script flows, just the stylistic treatment of the film, the performances. It's Money at its best.
And for me, I have to say, actually, I have to say Talabadi by Mani Ratnam as well. So we're both massive Mani Ratnam fans, but I think to make a film like that with Rajini at his peak is an incredible movie. And like you said, like, you know, I think I've seen it before. Every time I watch the film, I need to watch it to the end. You know, it's an incredible film. So layered. It truly, I think Tamil cinema peaked, I think, with Talabadi. So for me, it would be that.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to add to that?
No, I was just going to say, I find it interesting that we all hit it on old movies. Like, we all went back with the nostalgia there. We
threw it back a little bit.
Yeah, we threw it back.
So what would you say is your earliest memory of a Tamil film? It doesn't have to be your favorite film, but just your earliest memory of a Tamil film.
My earliest memories of Tamil films actually were because of my mom. She and my parents and my brother all moved to Canada years before I was born, and Tamil films were what helped her get over her homesickness. You know, she had a couple of VHS copies of some classic K. Balachandar, you know, Bala Mahendran and Balidiraja movies, and those were the things that she would just play constantly. So by the time I was born, you know, the house was just filled with these same movies on loop. So my earliest memories are actually of watching these like black and white films with her that were way over my head. Like I was way too young to be watching some of these things when I did. But those were my earliest memories, and I think it was just, I grew up in that environment. It was just always there. It was not really like something we had to consciously do. Like it was unconscious that a Tamil film will always be going on in the background.
So it's no surprise that you do the work you do today.
It might have been predetermined from the womb, so.
There you go. How about you, the both of you guys, earliest memory of a Tamil film?
I think I'll start without. I think the earliest memories again. I think our love for Tamil film does come from our mother, and I think my earliest memories the old '80s Rajini movies. It was a truly classic. Every film was one man against the system. It was like either like a revenge flick, and you know, they're my earliest memories. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's the same. I think it was Rajini and Ilayaraja music was the two things when we look back. I think we grew up then.
Well, we have to say, looking at the background of your room, I'm going to assume it's either Nelson or Carrera's room. There's a lot of posters in the back that clearly show that you guys are diehard Rajini fans.
Well, we must put a disclaimer out there. This is actually our little production space in our house. So it's where all the film work, all of that stuff happens. And it was actually the room where we shot parts of the Rajini Effect. So this was, when you watch the film, Typo's room was this room.
There you go. So that's a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tyho sleeps outside, just outside.
It's the perks of low-budget independent filmmaking.
Well, thank you for letting us in that little secret. I think we feel privileged for that. So I'm going to assume, Nelson Cabrera, that you spent a majority of your life growing up in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dilani, you grew up in North America. So because you did spend so much time outside of India, like where we have the biggest Tamil film industry, do you think that your passion for Tamil cinema is something that you feel a lot of other Tamil purists share here?
I think yes, for sure. I mean, part of the reason why I think I've been able to, develop this career here where I'm here, but writing about films across the world and connecting with audiences around the world is because this love of Tamil cinema and South Indian cinema in general, or Indian cinema in general, is pretty universal nowadays. I mean, it's also not something that only South Asian people do. I mean, we see Indian films running in our, like, I'm not sure what the UK equivalent is of Cineplex, but plays at our, regular theaters. And I think that it's not that uncommon. Maybe it's uncommon to make a career out of it when the industry is kind of across the world, but the actual love for the films, I think I have a lot of peers who share the same.
So it's pretty
view.
universal.
Yeah.
Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I think over here, it's Tamil films is incredibly big, and I think it's fundamentally due to the Tamil diaspora's way of connecting and to their culture, their roots, and was mainly through these films. And I remember when we were growing up that we didn't have multiplexes that played Tamil films. There used to be single screen cinemas that would play the films really, really late. So at 11 p.m. They would charge £15 a ticket, and we would go as a family, pay the fortune, and drive back at 3 in the morning when my dad would go to work the next day. We'd still talk about when we went to watch Bariabba at one of the cinemas, and the queue was so big, it filled the cinema and came out of the cinema across the zebra crossing on the road, blocking traffic at 11 o'clock at night. So it just shows how big it is over here.
It's interesting you say that. I don't know if you remember, Dilani, but we had Gerard Cinemas.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day when it was one of the few theaters that did show Tamil films, and
Yeah.
we also had lines crawling, and I would look forward to having the spicy corn on the side of the street while waiting in line.
And it sucked when it was the winter time because there was
Yes.
nowhere to wait inside the theater, so you just had to line up down the street. The things we do for cinema.
But you would see everyone that in the entire community there. And it's interesting because I feel that Tamil cinema is what kind of helped me practice Tamil, right?
Yeah.
Growing up outside of countries that have Tamil as an official language. I feel like Tamil films kind of helped with that.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I never went to language classes, which are much more prevalent now for kids who, Tamil kids who are growing up now. So I think that like movies were our Tamil lessons because they would just be on in the background. So I got used to it. Although I do know that my parents make fun of me for speaking a dialect similar to Chennai, then they would say
You're not
that
alone on that.
I think the whole idea that we can be removed from that direct society but still have an interest in cinema, I guess it's depends on who you are and why you connect to it in a certain way. And Nelson and Kavir being filmmakers, they probably connect to it on a more of the creative aspect and creating it that way. But for me, Tamil films are a culmination of a bunch of things that interest me, like a lot of little things, or not little, but a couple of things, like music, dance, writing, acting. I was always that kid in school who went out for the plays or the speech and essay competitions. And like many people here, I grew up learning Carnatic music and Bharatanatyam. So films really bring together a bunch of things that I'm interested in instead of just one form. I don't look at it as one form of entertainment.
Absolutely. So we are going to take a quick break now, but you're watching Crossroads on TVI with Mathusha Senthil. Welcome back to Crossroads on TVI with Mathusha Senthil. I'm joined by Dilani Rabindran, and on Skype we have joining us Nelson and Kuvera Sivalingam, all the way from London, England. Welcome back, guys. So we're talking about Tamil films and I guess the Western perspective of them as well. So just to lighten it up a little, do you prefer newer Tamil films or older films? I know a lot of your favorites were movies from the 90s. So newer or older?
I think, sorry, I think whether it's older or not, I think there were good films and bad films in the 80s. There were good films and bad films in the 90s. There are good films and bad films now. So I think nothing has changed really. We're technologically kind of progressed. I think we're taking more risks. Like the late K. Balachander, some of the films he made in the 70s, 80s were so path-breaking. I don't think people make those sort of films anymore. So I don't think you can divide it really.
Yeah, to add, I'd have to agree. I mean, it is kind of, I don't think that maybe we look back and we remember the best films or the ones that, you know, speak something to our childhood or something like that. But like Claire said, like there was always bad films and good films, you know, we just happen to remember the ones that we like the best. But I do have to say, I mean, there are a lot of films releasing nowadays. I mean, like Christmas alone, I think there was like 4 or 5 major releases, and it's tough because there's so much in the pool, and sometimes only one out of every 3 or 4 really stands out. But I think that we are at a point in the industry where there's a lot of new visionary directors, like, for example, Pa Ranjit or Balaji Mohan or Karthik Subraj or Nelson and Kuvir Sivalingam, who are revitalizing the industry, and they're bringing in more, not necessarily just globalized or international films, but just quality films, and we're bringing it back. I think the storytelling is improving, and we're reaching a new wave where we're going to get more consistent hits.
So just based on your answer, and just to get a little bit more specific, from your personal perspective, how has the Tamil film industry evolved over the years?
Do the guys want to take this one first?
Nelson Cabrera?
Well, how it's evolved is, I think we've almost gone back on ourselves. Like Vera mentioned before, you know, Mr. Balachandra was making path-breaking films that are ahead of its time in terms of the content it dealt with, and how he handled that subject matter was way ahead of its time. And then we almost went into this phase where it's very much hero-driven, one man against system, very action and family sentiment orientated. And we didn't really veer away from that in terms of other topics that we could look into. But now they're coming back around to that. And with like filmmakers like the ones Dilani mentioned, as well as other independent filmmakers on the Tamil scene, you're getting a lot of original concepts, new treatments in how they handle the content they're working with. So I think we've sort of gone back around.
And speaking about it from, say, a non-storytelling perspective, even just on the business side, I would say the way the film industry has evolved is that it's becoming more open to newcomers. I think Bollywood, there was definitely a time in Bollywood where it was ruled by the family dynasties, and I think that applied to Tamil films as well. There was a period where most of the major filmmakers were coming from the same circle of, you know, relatives or newcomers, and new actors were somebody's son or somebody's daughter. And I think that technology has a lot to do with the whole industry opening up so that newcomers, like the directors I just mentioned, are getting more opportunities. I mean, we're seeing talent online in the form of short films, and that's giving them greater opportunities to garner interest from producers. And even when it comes to, oh, sorry, guys.
That's right. I think, especially, I think just to, you know, kind of follow up what Dilani said about technology, I think the digital revolution in cinema has made the likes of us guys with hardly any funds to make a film. So what that does is independent filmmakers with maybe strong writers who never got the funds to make a film, they could go out and make a movie now. You can, you know, for very kind of like, you know, you can make zero budget movies that has good quality content. So
not just make, but I think what the digital revolution allows you to do is distribute your films across the world. You know, whether it's through cinemas or to get it out online, or even in terms of marketing. You know, you now have a global audience to tell your story to. Which would have cost a fortune, you know, years before.
Yeah, and on that marketing note, you know, everyone is a critic nowadays. You have Twitter, you have 140 characters, you can make or break a film with your words. And I think that helps, I mean, it hinders films in some ways, but I think for the most part it's helpful because we're seeing what the public likes. Like, it's very easy to tell what films are doing well in the eyes of the audience and what films are not, or even what actors are appreciated. New faces are getting more and more support from online. So maybe regardless of how you got into the industry, nowadays I think you have a fair shot at staying in it based on your how the public perceives you or receives you.
And it also keeps them a little bit on their toes.
Of course. I mean, I've seen it firsthand where, you know, Behindwoods will release a review and we so immediately have response from the public either agreeing with or disagreeing with the review and putting their own 2 cents in. And people may not realize it, but directors and producers are reading it. They're reading our columns, they're reading our reviews, and they're reading the feedback that people post, you know, and that we help distribute via the website or via social media. And it's kind of, I think maybe some people still think, oh, so-and-so is not paying attention to whatever so-and-so said about it, but you'd be surprised. I mean, almost every major or feature film director is on Twitter these days.
That's some interesting insight that you've provided on, all of you guys have provided on that topic. So Bollywood has been the film industry that those outside of India have commonly associated Indian films with. However, Collywood has slowly but surely been making a name for itself with your work with TIFF, so I'm sure you obviously have been tracking that as well. What are your thoughts on this, and why now as opposed to, say, 10 years ago?
I think just as a thought, I think in the South, and especially the Tamil film industry, I think we consistently make better movies than the Bollywood film industry. So I think it's a great shame that we don't get the same recognition for the films from the South as the North. But I think that will change with time, you know, with the digital revolution, with the film festivals. I think the likes of Bala, likes of Benchmark, and the likes of these other independent filmmakers, Karthik Subaraj, and hopefully they'll make the festival circuit and they'll, you know, their films will get global releases and will have the same recognition.
Yeah. I think it's understanding that Bollywood now has come to mean a genre of movies rather than movies coming from a particular part of the world. So even within the festival circuits, when they refer to Bollywood, it's a particular type of film they're referring to. And when they talk about the wider films produced in India, they're called Indian films. And so it's understanding that as well as when it comes to distribution in India with Tamil films in particular and across the South, they're so keen to get their films out to the domestic market that they don't think about having a whole festival period and finding international distribution through art house distributors. They don't look at that as an option. But you can see that changing in the North, in particular with Anwar Kachar and what they're doing in terms of bringing their films into international distribution first. And a great example of that is The Lunchbox. You know, it's an art house, independent indie film that got incredible distribution across the world, and it was the top 5 biggest box office international movies in North America.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I think that's the sort of things that we need to start considering to build this brand and to get people watching Tamil films.
And just to add to what the guy said is, I think we've reached a point where, first of all, Tamil people are all over the world. We're everywhere. So, yes. And as we become a bigger part of more international societies, the non-South Asian people that we're meeting with and we're mixing with and we're, you know, like sharing our cultures with, I think are becoming well-versed in a lot of the traditions of Tamil people. I mean, I have a lot of non-South Asian friends who can recite all the key events and traditions of a Tamil wedding. I don't know why, but they can. And that's, I think, from exposure to the Tamil population. So as we go places and we become more global and get people interested in our culture, I think films are a great way to teach people new things. And so people are automatically becoming more drawn to our forms of entertainment. And to add to expand on what Nelson was saying with film festivals, and I think that South Indian film directors and producers are also recognizing the greater value in creating films that have more global themes and messages, and making a conscious effort to make them available to non-South Asian audiences. And like The Lunchbox, another more recent and ideal example would be the film that we had at TIFF this year, which was The Crow's Egg, directed by a debutante, which was M. Manikandan. It was produced by big names, Dhanush and Vetrimaran, both national award winners, produced it, and they actually strategically planned out that they would release it through international film festivals, because they knew it was the kind of film, it specifically discusses globalization, that would appeal to non-Tamil audiences as well as Tamil audiences. And you know, they were very successful by planning that out, because the film received amazing reviews from critics and from the public who saw it here in Toronto.
Interesting. So have you ever felt a disconnect between Tamil films, their stories, and the lives that all of you have been living in Canada and in London?
I think when you watch Tamil films or you watch films from India, there is a certain level of disconnect. I think, you know, some of the sentiments, they're clear logical issues, you know, and they're different cultural gaps. You know, you've been brought up in a completely different culture, and you're trying to kind of take in, you know, for example, if you're watching a film like Behindwoods, and you kind of watch a film and you appreciate such a good movie, but there's always a cultural gap between, I wouldn't call it a disconnect, but it's kind of almost, you watch it in a very objective way. I think sometimes you kind of find it difficult to relate to the emotions or the cultural references. But you know, there's obviously, I think, there are definitely certain places where there are logical issues and you're like, oh my God, okay.
So we're saying we don't chase after the heroine in the mall and stalk her?
Guys, do you chase after the heroine?
I have a lot to blame for that, actually. Honestly, this love at first sight, every Tamil film, they see a girl on the bus, it's whole love at first sight, 5-minute intro song. Oh my God, you've got to blame Tamil films for everything that happens in shopping malls, railway stations, like. So, yeah, I think partly it's a bit.
I mean, I think films, the whole purpose of films is to transport a viewer to a new world or land or community, and it just so happens that I like being transported to the land of Tamil films the most. But I think, yes, of course, there's a gap and there's a quote-unquote disconnect. I mean, it's hard to relate sometimes to Chennai when you're sitting in cold, wintry Canada. But at the same time, I do think that we share a lot of or being raised in Tamil families, that we share a lot of the customs and values that are stressed in the films to the main characters in those films. For example, things like the importance of family or bonds of friendship, the importance of studying hard and doing well in school. Those are things that I think no matter where we are in the world, we're facing. And you know, and having friends in Chennai, like having good friends with whom I discuss daily life, we realize now that we're all facing the same pressures. We're just doing it in different time zones.
I think the issue sometimes is like the customs and the culture that's reflected in some movies it's not actually a true reflection of what the culture is actually at the moment in India. You know, sometimes it's kind of stuck in this time warp where they feel, you know, like things are progressing, their culture evolves, there are different kind of values. But I think they still hold on to certain values. For example, you know, like the role of women in Tamil cinema and how it's still acceptable for a man to hit a Tamil woman, hit a woman in a film in India, you know, for just smallest of things, and how that's acceptable. That's like, you know, that's a genuine issue.
So we're going to actually take a really quick break. You're watching Crossroads on TVI with Mathusha Sendhil, and when we come back, we're going to discuss a little bit more about Tamil films, so stay tuned. Wow, we're flying through. Welcome back to Crossroads on TVI. I'm joined by Dilani and Nelson and Kavera from London on Skype. We've been talking about the Tamil film industry. So there's an interesting film set to premiere in Toronto in a few weeks called The Rajini Effect. And of course, we have two of the directors joining us on Skype. Rajinikanth is a household name in Tamil cinema. His appeal is obviously very international. He has a massive following in Japan. So in 1999, Newsweek made a comment that Rajinikanth has supplanted Leonardo DiCaprio as Japan's trendiest heartthrob. Obviously, that's quite a statement to make. To this day, his popularity remains intact. Do you want to share your thoughts on it personally?
About him being the heartthrob over Leonardo DiCaprio.
Well, his appeal, his obvious appeal, especially in places like Japan, of all places, right?
They have good taste in Japan.
Pardon?
They have good taste.
They have
They have good taste in Japan.
Says the guys with the posters all over their
Can't
room
argue
of
with
Rajini.
that.
Yeah. I honestly, I'm going to use this term that my friends have got me using recently. It's pretty big in Chennai, and they just say mass. It's just mass. Mass is meaning something that's indescribable or inexplicable or awe-inspiring, and I don't think there's any other way you can really quantify Rajinikanth, superstar Rajinikanth, but with the word mass. And so to hear or to know that he has such international appeal, especially in a country that's so blatantly different to Chennai, like a country like Japan, I think it can only be described by, like, you know, his inexplicable style and probably the fact that after all these decades in the industry, you know, he's maintained that style, he's maintained that aura, and maybe it has something to do also with Japan. And this, guys, I'm just prophesizing here now, but like maybe it has something to do with Japan or the East martial arts films, and the fact that Rajinikanth was always our hero who could, you know, jump off a moving train and everything would be fine and save the day. And maybe it's something to do with that, and that they can relate to him on the fact of his heroism and his, you know, like his aptitude at martial arts and things like that. I mean, to me, I can't really explain what it is about him. All I can say is he's mass, right?
Fair enough, but Nelson and Kavera, you guys are obviously super Rajinikanth fans, so I'm sure you can give us a little bit more insight on that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, one thing to remember over his long career, you know, he's done diverse roles. He did do very actor-orientated roles early on, where you could see the great actor within him. And on top of that, he just has incredible screen presence. Yes. I mean, when he's on screen, you can't look elsewhere. And I think it's that charisma that only very few people have that. And that is what makes an actor into a star. And I think that's one of the things. It is, you know, like Ronnie said, it's a very difficult thing to explain or describe. You've just got to experience it.
Yeah, I don't think it's tangible. I think some people have it, some people don't. It's one of those things. As filmmakers, you see it, you know, you see them off screen, they look, you know, nothing much, but you put the camera on them and it's just this incredible thing that happens. And I think it is just incredible. You know, I think we try and explain it in our film. So you got to watch the film.
I think that's why we decided to make the film. Was this, you know, it was just before Emblem was about to release, and we were talking about this, you know, our previous experiences of watching Rajini films, and just, you know, what is this magic? And we thought, what if we can capture that in a film? You know, to show to people who didn't know who Rajinikanth was. I remember reading an article that said, is the biggest star that most people probably never heard of. Yeah. And it's this idea of, if I could take my friends from over here to watch a Rajinikanth film, what would they take from that? Would they see it in the same way we do? Would they see that magic? Is what we wanted to explore through this film.
I think one of the biggest compliments we got post the film was someone said to me that after watching that film, they went home and Googled Rajinikanth and read up about him for like more clips, wanted to watch these films, and I think that's great. I think we kind of did our job there, you know, kind of make people relate to him and trying to find out more about the star, which kind of only a certain part of the world know of.
I think coming back to the fact that he is relatable. Yeah, he's not your conventional. He's not a George Clooney. He's not a Brad Pitt, and he's not. He looks like one of us. Yeah, and I think that's what it is. It's this guy you can connect with, looks like us, but he's just cooler than all of us.
So he's relatable, so obviously that's key. We keep going back to the topic of this film that the both of you have made, The Rajini Effect. It's set to premiere in Toronto on January 13th. So do you want to take us through maybe the gist of what this film is about?
Well, it's a story about a Japanese guy who wants to become the next Rajinikanth. So that's in a nutshell. That's what the film's about. So the theme of the film is about following your dreams, no matter how crazy it is. So it's got like a universal theme, but it's just following this guy who's been obsessed with Rajinikanth since his dad took him to a film in Japan since he was 9 years old. And ever since then, all he wanted to do is become a movie star in the Tamil film industry and become the next Rajinikanth. So that's what it's about.
And the hero of the film, Taiho, hopefully I'm saying his name correct, is of Japanese descent. And so how do you think North American audiences would relate to this hero?
Well, I think North America, anywhere in the world, I think that his, like I mentioned, the theme and the core idea of it is this guy has his dream, and the dream just happens to be the fact that he wants to become the next Rajinikanth. I think at core of that aspiration, people will be able to relate to, you'll be able to understand. Maybe it might be a bit different to see a Japanese guy as the main lead and following him within this cultural setup might be quite new. But I think people would be able to relate to him, relate to his dreams.
I think, the film's now screened in a number of different cities. I think it was premiered in Germany, and I think it's the same. So I think people kind of identify with, we all enjoy and love an underdog story. And I think in the heart of it, it is an underdog story because he has a dream which, everyone who hears it, thinks it's crazy. It can never come true. So you always kind of identify with, people like that, and that's what I think that's what works for the film.
And we tried to mirror it with the rise of Rajinikanth as well, and draw parallels. Where Rajinikanth's story is an underdog story. It's a guy who's got an unconventional looks, who comes in to predominantly an industry that's got people from very big and powerful families coming into it, and he breaks the way things are done with his style and the way he performs the villain character, and the most talked about his dark complexion and how that stand out. So we draw parallels on his rise and the story of Taiho.
And Dilani, I know you've seen a little bit of the film. So from your perspective, what do you think this film differs from your average Hollywood film?
Well, so I first heard about these guys when they were making names for themselves at a bunch of film festivals, and we spoke for Behindwoods.com in advance of their UK premiere last spring. And I think what interested me about their film was not only the success I'd heard of these guys and their previous, short films and other productions, but I was interested in the fact that the film was kind of attempting to explain something that people have asked me so many times, and that is, what is it about Rajinikanth, or what is it about Tamil films that makes them so captivating, or that it captivates you so much about them? And I think, in a way, their film, it kind of encapsulates a lot of things, like the comedy, the style, the humor, our obsession with celebrities and stardom. And all those things kind of culminate, and I think I wouldn't say it's a satire film, unless you guys want to say it is, but I think it's a really good reflection on just international love for, be it cinema of any culture, but in particular Indian cinema, and something that Indian cinema is one that I think captivates the entire world, no matter where you're from. Everyone knows of Indian films, and that it is one of the largest film industries in the world.
And do you think, all of you, would you think this movie is suitable for someone who is not of Tamil descent or who is not familiar with Kollywood films?
I'm gonna answer. You guys are gonna I'm like, is it self-serving for these guys to answer it? I'm gonna say, yeah, of course, it's suitable for everyone to see, because I mean, even the characters themselves are multicultural, and you know, to have a premiere in Toronto, one of the most multicultural cities in the world, like it's absolutely fitting, and everyone should be there. So buy your tickets and be there on January 13th.
Even if they don't know who Rajini is, I mean, everyone should know.
That's the reason why they should.
That's why they should be there, and if needed, I'll be happy to explain it at the door. But like, I can't. I'm just gonna.
Official spokeswoman.
Yeah, officially. I can't explain it though. I'm just gonna be like, it's inexplicable. Please take a seat and enjoy the film.
Of course. So, where can our audience find out more about this film and its premiere coming up?
There is a Facebook page for the event managed by Kumaran and his PR company, but tickets can be bought on eventbrite.com, and they're on sale right now. Yeah.
You can also go to the RajiniEffect.com and you can book tickets for the Canadian premiere via the website, or you can get in contact with Tamil Culture, who are presenting the film in Toronto.
Correct.
Cool. So everyone should come out and give it a chance.
Everyone should come out and give it a chance. And you know what's so fun? It's that this love for cinema, this love for Rajinikanth, it's global. And I think we're having a lot of fun even prepping for the premiere. There's a social media campaign. I know there's this whole Punch It dialogue thing that these guys keep trying to get me to record my own Punch dialogue, but no one wants to hear me do that. So, but I think, no.
I do too.
You know what? YouTube is a beautiful thing, and I can copy and paste links all day long. So, but I just think it's one of those films that I think everyone will enjoy, not only just watching, but partaking in, because it feels like a community event. It feels like, I mean, wouldn't everyone want their friends to help, or everyone wants to see, like they said, the underdog. Everyone wants to see the underdog win the day.
Well, I mean, after this, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it for myself. Yeah. And seeing what all the hype is about, because you guys have obviously got me interested and intrigued. So, before we wrap it up, I have a few questions I'm going to throw at all of you, and give me your best answers. Favorite on-screen pair? Tamil cinema, of course.
Ugh. I'm going to go classic, and I'm going to say, no, I can't do it. No, okay, go to the guys first.
Okay, Kavara Nelson, it's on you.
Favorite on-screen pair, like anyone? Oh, since we're going with the Rajini theme, I think Rajini's best pair was Khushbu. So Rajini and Khushbu.
Oh.
I'm going to go for Karthik and Revati. I think they did some great films together. I think they're one of the best pairs in the history of Tamil cinema.
For the sake of my mom not yelling at me later, I'm going to go with Kamal and Sridevi.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I think I won.
You went there. But maybe for our younger audience, let's give them someone newer.
Oh,
I mean, not that, Rajini and Kamal aren't hip with it, but.
I'm going to go with, in the current crop of actors, I'm going to say Vishal and Lakshmi Menon. I think they're a good pair.
Very true.
Actually, Dhanush and Parvati Menon, although Marian wasn't an amazing film, I think they were great on-screen chemistry.
Yeah, very good.
Awesome. And who would you like to see work together in the future that hasn't worked together yet? Or hasn't worked together in a while?
In a while? Well, Madhavan needs to come back. What was that?
Which one?
Rajini and Kamal?
Rajini and Kamal.
Together.
Oh, yeah, let's not be show. Yeah.
That would be epic.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
That's a good one. That would be. And I think we're reaching that point, like maybe, I think there's a lot of interest. I think Rajini and Kamal, the talk through the industry is that they're very interested in working with newer directors, and there was even this rumor going around that Rajini said he wished he could have played the role that Simha played in Jigardanda, which would have been amazing to see him in that role. So I think we're reaching that point where they're more aware of the up and coming film directors, and they're more willing to collaborate with younger or other co-stars. So we could see that. We could see Rajini and Kamal come together very soon again.
Well, I think this has been an amazing and very fun discussion. We don't get to do this very often, so I did thoroughly enjoy it. So I hope all of you did too. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining us, especially Kavera and Nelson as well, joining us all the way from London. And Happy New Year. I know the year just, turned 2015, so thank you so much. And thank you for... And thank you for all our audience at home for watching. Hopefully you guys are also having a very, very good New Year so far. And you've been watching CrossRoads on TVI with Mathusha Sendil. So until next time.
Are you a superstar?
It's like the X Factor, but for films. And if we win, we get the money to make a big film.
We have no cast, no money, no camera.
Rajini, sir, started as a bus conductor. He chased his dreams. The rest is history.
You'll be chased by, you'll be chased by a group of thugs. The bull is chasing you.
A bull.
Oh, come on. Why are you swearing all the time?
When I sing, I don't do it as much. Hey boss, it's all ready to go. Give it 30 minutes, the bomb is gonna blow.
Hey, what are you doing here? It's a Tamil film. Sing it in Tamil.
I'm gonna be a film star. I'm gonna be the next superstar.
Romantic look.
आने दो, उसकी लाश ही जान से जाएगी.
I mean, especially penises. They're just there, dangling and between your legs and... I don't know. They're just really odd looking, don't you think?
தமிழரின் பிம்பம் உங்கள் டிவி.